And I would like to welcome our FIRE presentation speaker, Gaëlle Loiseau, CEO of Shared Value Project Hong Kong, who will share a little bit more about creating shared value in hospitality. So Gaëlle, with 20 years of global experience in the luxury goods industry, is passionate about the positive impact the private sector can have on society and believes CSV can pave the way for new business models. Gaëlle's extensive marketing and business development background includes roles in New York, Europe, and Asia, with the last 8 years spent working in Hong Kong. Employed by brands such as Lanvin, Lancôme, and Christofle, she later focused on sustainability when supporting innovative luxury brands entering the Greater China market. She also did some work on the circular economy in the luxury goods industry. A graduate of Lyon Graduate School of Business, Gaëlle has also recently completed a course in business sustainability management from Cambridge University, focused on helping companies identify their own shared value business models. Gaëlle hopes to help accelerate the CSV movement and cross-sector collaboration in the Greater Bay Area.
Hi, thank you, Lucia. If I had known that you would read it out, we would have sent you a shorter one, sorry. But Gaëlle Loiseau here. I am not an expert in the hospitality, but what I want to do today is propose a different mindset about how we look at business performance, business strategy. And why we think at Shared Value Project Hong Kong that CSV, creating shared value, is the future of business. So if you can go to the next slide, we're going to go quite quickly. So I'm sure you've discussed that today. These are the problems that we have to deal with, and the private sector is being asked to step up. The problem for business is that at the moment, they're more seen as being part of the problem rather than the solution. And so there's clearly a loss of trust. You can see that in the Edelman Trust Barometer. And there's many stats showing how stakeholders don't believe that businesses are genuine when they're talking about sustainability and how they contribute to problems in society. When you couple that with uncertain times in the economy, you really land in a dangerous place for businesses. And it's only the ones who can demonstrate that they are relevant in society, that their purpose is not just a statement on their website, that's the ones who will be able to survive. Next, please. So in the shared value mindset, there is no trade-off between society and business. If society doesn't thrive, then business cannot thrive in the long term. We've seen that in Hong Kong in the last over a year. Businesses need educated staff. They need their staff to be able to live somewhere. They need infrastructure. And on the other hand, society needs jobs. We all need a paycheck. Governments need taxes. And so there is no long-term trade-off. It has to be that if one thrives, the other thrives as well. Next. So why are we stuck in the way we do business? We believe that the main problem is the short-term vision. We're just stuck into this short-term consideration of when we look at value. And actually, as soon as you raise your gaze and you look further afield, then everything falls into place. Everything makes sense. Stakeholder capitalism makes sense. It makes sense to invest in the conditions that you need for your business to thrive in the future. The second hurdle is the fact that businesses are not really comfortable looking at social and environmental issues. That's not what they're used to, and they need to get used to that. But at the moment, it's not like there's a clear roadmap on how to tackle societal issues. And then the third piece, which I'm sure came up a lot today, is collaboration, which is what we try to picture here with that diagram where you have a big ship and government is at the wheel, but nothing will happen if the engine doesn't work. An engine is business, but the engine also won't work if there's no finance and if there's no fuel, and the fuel comes from the finance. So we can go next. So I want to spend a bit of time on that because that's the heart of what we believe in and what we work to advocate for. So creating shared value is a business strategy. That's really the important piece to understand. We don't believe that there is a trade-off again. So we believe that businesses can and will be successful if they address social and environmental issues profitably, okay? So it's only at the intersection of your core business model, your core corporate assets, the issues that you solve a societal need, and profitability. It's only when you manage to address all three that you create shared value. And when we say creating shared value, we're talking about economic value for the business and value for society. So that's the shared piece. We're not talking about values, so there's no S. It's not about ethics, even though, of course, we should all have ethics. But in this case, when we're talking about creating shared value, it's really about economic value and social value. And the way you do that, the way you create shared value is by evolving, changing the business model, inventing new ways of doing business to instead to respond to societal needs. So instead of looking at social issues as constraints, you just look at them through the business lens. I'll give you a few examples, and to give you examples, I'll explain the 3 levels of creating shared value, so that you can think about that when you think about your business strategy. The first level is looking internally, what you can control directly. So your products, the markets that you're serving. How do you reconceive that to address unmet needs? So again, I'm not an expert in hospitality industry, but you know, if you have buildings that historic buildings that you maintain, or if you are promoting healthy food in your hotels, if you are promoting healthy lifestyles, you know, sports, nature tours, then you are promoting, so you're helping educate society, the people, but at the same time, you are creating a differentiating factor for your hotel, and therefore you can create competitive advantage. There is an example of that with Taj Exotica in India. You can look it up, but really trying to make a holistic offer for their product that includes nature, that includes culture and health. Then the second level of shared value is how do you redefine productivity in the value chains? So here, you know, how do you work with your suppliers so that they are local, so that you support them, and that will build your own resilience, right? So if you have a network of suppliers locally who can respond very quickly, that helps you do better business. An example on that is Marriott in Jamaica, who did a conscious effort to really weave a community of local suppliers to help them in their operations. And then last level of creating shared value, you then look at yourself in an ecosystem, or we call it a cluster. How can you work with other businesses, maybe to create a circular economy? How do you work with universities, you know, business associations, government, to help that society, that community thrive, and therefore you will benefit from it as well. Just something to point out is that there's a Fortune Change the World list that was issued this week. And we have on there a Hong Kong company called Green Monday. Maybe it's been mentioned earlier today, but some, you know, how you can align profit and purpose, in this case, in the food industry. Thank you. So just to summarize what we're about, at Creating Shared Value, so we look at businesses as problem solvers. That's what they do best. They are able to solve problems profitably. If we get them comfortable looking at social and environmental issues, which at the moment, they're not necessarily, but if we get them to look at those issues through the business angle, then we align profit and purpose. And when that happens, magic happens. So you're profitable, so you're either creating new revenue or cost saving. you are creating competitive advantage because you're doing things differently from your competitors. You're innovating. You're essentially future-proofing your business, because as long as you're answering a need in society and as long as that need is there, then you're needed. And so you're creating resilience. And then lastly, to circle back to what we said at the beginning, you're creating trust with your stakeholders. And that's not only with your customers, it's also with your employees who want to work for something bigger than themselves. Your suppliers become partners, so it's a different relationship. You're creating trust there as well. And then increasingly, we see that also with our members who are in a big organization, you create investor trust. So next, just one slide about us. Shared Value, it's a global network, including the original in Boston, Shared Value Initiative. But while it's a global movement, we recognize that you can create shared value in very different ways, and to embed it in the business, you need to take into account the different cultures. And that's why we have regional initiatives in Africa, India, Australia, and Hong Kong. Our two missions are to advocate for shared value. That's what I'm doing now. And our second mission is to help build capacity in our member organizations. I'll stop there just in case there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Gaëlle, for introducing us to the concept of shared value and how you can work on creating something of a value for all sides, not only business, but also the society and vice versa. Good example there with the Green Monday. I think definitely a success story on how to do something that you believe in is good as a positive impact and actually being profitable at the same time, right? Gaëlle, I wanted to ask you actually, if you're okay to share your presentation with the audience later on so that they can perhaps reach out to you or reread the slides. I believe for many, it might be a new concept and maybe not have heard about that, and might be helpful to revisit that. Or would you recommend any other resources for them to look up?
Sure, so it's fine to share the presentation, and our website is a good starting point. We have several articles there. We have case studies, so it's a good starting point.
Fantastic. Do we have two questions just arrived? So yeah, there are questions and people just probably munching on their lunch right now. So a little bit delayed, cannot type that fast. So let me just refresh and see them, and we might
I can see the questions actually.
Yeah, sure, go ahead if you see them already.
So how can you influence a business that only thinks about cost and the bottom line and their financial? I think that's where the shared value framework can help, because we are talking about making profit. We are talking about business performance. I come from the business side, luxury actually, and that's why I thought shared value was useful, is because you're not asking businesses to become NGOs. You're telling them, no, this is about your survival. This is about your future performance. The economy is changing. Everybody sees that. And so how do you manage to tackle a different kind of problem profitably? It should still be about making profit and reducing costs. So it's still, it can still be about that. It's just a different business case. And then, does your network consider ethical investment? Oh, sorry, I missed one. Did you see a trend in the last couple of years of more and more companies looking into social value? Yes, definitely. We see that trend. I think the world that we live in helped us in a way drive that point forward, because clearly we cannot do business the way we used to. It doesn't work anymore. And so we have to reinvent the business models, even as simple as that. How do we rework how we earn our dollars so that it also helps solve issues in society? Otherwise, we are sitting on a branch in a tree and we are sewing the branch on which we're sitting. It just won't work for a long time. Should I continue?
I can take one more question and then we're going to go into the panel. Sorry, I can't see because I have some issue with my laptop here, but you go ahead. Yeah, you can take one more. Just choose which one.
Yeah, does your network consider ethical investment like B Corp, or is the focus different? So all these initiatives aimed for the same thing. It's just we look at it from a different angle. So B Corp helps you measure at a given point how you're doing on certain criteria. Shared value is a more holistic and strategic thinking. So at first you have to realize what is strategic to your business. You know, if you're a bank, doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily strategic to your business to go and, I don't know, build a school in Africa. Where is your core impact or your core potential impact? And so that's where shared value, what shared value is about, is looking at what is strategic to your business, what can help create differentiation, but where you have the potential to really scale the impact. So it's a different approach, but it's not, it's complementary, I would say. There's more questions, Lucia, but
yeah, there are more questions. Maybe we can take one more. I think Amandine,
okay.
like whether you see any specific sectors more mature for this kind of shift than the others.
No, so that's, we always have people in every industry who tell us, oh, but that's easy in insurance, but I can't create shared value. But that's not really the case. I mean, unless you look at, it's not really the case in the sense that everybody can take steps to create more shared value. Then you could argue that, you know, if you are a soda drink company, then how are you adding value to society? Maybe, but anybody, any business can start on the journey and rethink of what is my purpose, what is my strategic impact, and therefore how can I shift my business model slightly to start addressing issues in society.
Thank you, Gaëlle. We don't have any more probably time for other questions, but feel free to reach to Gaëlle. Perhaps you know where she is from, which organization she represents. I'm sure that you can find a way to ask her more questions if you wish to. Thank you so much for your time, Gaëlle. We're now going to go to the panel discussion